Hello, Scorpio. There's a quiet shift taking place in your life, and you can feel it deep beneath the surface, where truth always lingers before it rises. Someone once dismissed you. They overlooked your depth, mocked your instincts, minimized your strength because they couldn't understand it. They labeled your silence as weakness, your intensity as too much, your vision as unrealistic. And for a while, you said nothing. You observed, you endured, and you did what only a Scorpio knows how to do. You transformed layer by layer in the dark. Now, without warning, the energy is turning, not because you demanded justice, but because you became it. You didn't seek to hurt this person. You simply stopped needing their validation. And in doing so, you positioned yourself exactly where the universe needed you to be. Mirror they can't look away from. A living example of everything they refused to acknowledge. What they thought they understood about you is unraveling. Not through your words, but through your presence. And as they begin to see who you've really become, the weight of their past judgments will begin to land softly. Then all at once, this isn't about revenge. Scorpio, it never was. That's the difference now. You've outgrown the need to make them see. You've stepped into a place where your growth speaks for itself. And because you carry no bitterness, no hunger to retaliate, you've become the perfect vessel for karma to move through. Not to destroy, but to teach. Not to punish, but to awaken. And the truth is, that person will learn more from your strength than they ever did from your silence. This moment is sacred. It's not a final confrontation, it's a quiet revelation. The world is beginning to see what you've known all along, that you are not who they thought you were. You never were. And as this truth unfolds, you'll realize the real victory was never about them. It was always about coming home to yourself. They never truly saw you. Scorpio, not as you are now. They held on to an outdated version of Yuan shaped by old wounds, quiet beginnings, or moments when you hadn't yet stepped into your power. They judged you based on who you were when you were still learning, still hurting, and still gathering your strength in silence. They couldn't imagine you evolving beyond the narrative they had created in their minds. So they had no idea who you were becoming. They couldn't see the quiet nights you spent rebuilding your self-worth. They couldn't hear the steady voice within you growing stronger, or feel the conviction that no longer wavered when you stood alone. They saw only what they wanted to see: someone who would stay small so they could feel big, someone they could manage or define. But Scorpio, you were never meant to be understood through shallow eyes. You were always meant to be discovered in your own time, by those who could meet you in your depth. And now, the gap between who they thought you were and who you actually are has become too wide to ignore. And this is where the shift begins. Scorpio, not in chaos or confrontation, but in the quiet unfolding of divine order. The universe, in its perfect timing, has been orchestrating a series of moments that seem ordinary on the surface but are anything but random. These are the soft rearrangements of fate, the subtle alignments that are now placing you in the exact position where your life, your growth, that your resilience will naturally reflect back to this person, everything they chose not to see. You won't need to say a word. You won't need to remind them of the past, because your presence alone grounded, evolved. A hole will be enough to hold up the mirror. And when they look into it, they won't just see you, they will see their own blindness, their own refusal to believe in something deeper than what their assumptions could grasp. This mirror you've become is not made of glass, but of truth. It's composed of every moment you chose to rise in silence, Every time you kept going when no one acknowledged your progress. Every layer of power you rebuilt in private while they looked away. And now, Scorpio, the mirror stands unshakable, reflective, and unmistakably clear. What they see in you will not be a version of who they once knew. It will be someone refined by experience, someone forged in the fire of disregard and made luminous by self-awareness. And the beauty of it all is that you didn't become this person to prove a point. You became this person because you refused to betray yourself. That choice, repeated in quiet moments, is what makes you the karmic reflection they must now face. Not to shame them, not to hurt them, but to show them gently, firmly, and without illusion what they missed when they looked at you and chose not to look deeper. There is no need for revenge. Scorpio, no need to correct them, to prove anything, to explain the journey you've taken or the work you've done in silence. That's not where your power lives anymore. Your energy no longer vibrates at the frequency of needing to be understood by those who once refused to see you. You've outgrown the stage of fighting for acknowledgement from people who only ever measured you through the lens of their own limitations. And now, simply by living in alignment with who you truly are, you've become undeniable. The way you carry yourself, the way you move through rooms, the grounded confidence in your voice, the quiet clarity in your choices, these are the statements that echo louder than any words ever could. You see, Scorpio, the real justice was never about making them feel small, the way they once tried to make you feel. It was always about becoming so complete in yourself that their opinion lost its weight. And you've done that. The life you're building now, the peace you're choosing, the authenticity you're allowing, it all speaks for itself. What once would have required explanation no longer needs to be spoken. What once would have triggered you into proving your worth now simply rolls off your spirit because your worth no longer hangs in the balance of anyone's recognition. And that is the most powerful reversal of all, not that they finally see your value, but that you no longer need them to. Let them watch. If they choose to, let them sit in the presence of everything they once called impossible. Because it was never your job to teach them through pain, it was your journey to become whole in the absence of it. And that wholeness, Scorpio, is the final answer. Not as retaliation, but as revelation. The lesson for them, Scorpio, is one that life often delivers with quiet precision. I don't ever judge someone solely by what they appear to be in a single moment in time. Don't assume that the version of a person you once knew is all they'll ever be. And above all, I don't project your own limitations onto someone else's potential. Especially not someone like you, someone who is constantly evolving, constantly rebuilding from the ashes of what others left behind. They judged you through the narrow lens of their own fear and insecurity, measuring you by what they themselves could not imagine becoming. And now, they will come to understand how deeply flawed that judgment was. Not because you corrected them, but because reality itself will do the correcting. They will see that what they once dismissed in you was never a flaw, it was a seed of something they weren't ready to comprehend. And the truth is, they never really saw you. They only saw the parts of you that made sense to them and ignored the rest. That was their mistake. And it's one they'll remember. But the more important lesson here, Scorpio, is the one that belongs to you. The lesson that has slowly revealed itself through every moment of isolation, every season of self-doubt, every time you had to build yourself back up when no one else believed. The lesson that says, you've grown, you've matured, you've surpassed the version of yourself that once needed to be validated, that once thought success would mean finally being seen by those who overlooked you. That version of you no longer exists. You no longer need to prove anything, not to them, not to the world, not even to the part of yourself that once craved recognition, because now, you know, you know who you are. You know what you're capable of. And you know that real power doesn't come from being acknowledged. It comes from moving forward, regardless of whether anyone claps for you. This is the beginning of a new chapter. One where you no longer carry the weight of needing to be understood. One where your worth is not something you argue for, but something you live from. You're not here to fight for space anymore. You are the space. You're not here to seek permission to rise. You've already risen. And in this new phase, the silence you once endured becomes the strength you now stand in. The rejection you once internalized becomes the redirection that placed you exactly where you're meant to be. And the pain of being doubted transforms into the power of knowing you never needed their belief, you only ever needed your own. So now, Scorpio, we arrive at the threshold not of revenge, not of reckoning, but of quiet completion. This isn't the end of a rivalry. It's the closing of a chapter you never asked to be part of. A chapter written by the limited perspectives of those who didn't take the time to understand the depth you carried. And what's beautiful, what's almost poetic in its simplicity, is that you don't leave this story with anger in your heart. You leave it with clarity. You leave it having reclaimed every part of yourself they once tried to reduce. You leave it not as the person they failed to recognize, but as the person you always knew you were becoming, even when no one else could see it. This moment, this quiet shift, is not just for them. It's for you. It's the moment you realize that you are no longer defined by the past version of yourself, or by anyone's memory of who you used to be. You've grown roots in places they never thought to look. You've expanded in silence, endured without applause, and evolved beyond every limitation they placed on your name. And now, the world will begin to respond to your energy differently, not because you demanded anything, but because you became undeniable. There will be people who finally understand. There will be those who remember how they underestimated you. And there may even be a quiet apology, not always in words, but in shifted behavior, in reverence, in the way they no longer speak over your name. But Scorpio, the greatest gift of all is that you won't need it. You won't be waiting for their apology to heal, because healing already happened. It happened in the moments you kept going. It happened in the ways you chose yourself again and again. In the decisions no one saw, in the inner work no one acknowledged. That healing made you whole. And as you step forward from heroizer, calmer, more rooted than ever, carry this truth with you. Your presence is enough. Your growth is your answer. And your story, no matter how misunderstood it once was, is unfolding exactly as it should. Let that be your quiet power. Let that be your soft triumph. You have nothing left to prove, only more of yourself to live. And the world, whether it's ready or not, will finally have to meet you where you truly are. This is your moment. Scorpio, not to rise out of spite, but to rise in full alignment with your own becoming. The lesson has been delivered. The energy has been reversed. And now, it's time for you to move on, not just forward, but free.